walks at night. In the small town of San Isidro, the houses sat so close together that neighbors could hear each other breathe at night. The tin roofs rattled in the wind like old bones shaking loose, and the hills surrounding the town cast shadows that stretched longer than they should have each evening, as if the darkness there was hungry and patient and had been waiting for a very long time. At the edge of the town stood a modest wooden home where the Ramos family lived. Father Dante, Mother Nena, and their 8-year-old daughter Lila. They were known as the happiest family on the street. Every evening, laughter drifted through their open windows, while the smell of garlic and warm rice filled the air. Neighbors would see little Lila playing in the yard, her bare feet in the grass, her arms cradling her favorite toy, a porcelain doll with eyes painted so precisely they seemed to track movement, and long black hair that never tangled, tied back with a deep red ribbon, the color of something that had dried. The doll's name was Maria. No one remembered where it came from. There were no receipts, no gift tags, no memory of a birthday or a market trip. One day, Lila simply had it, already clutching it to her chest as if it had always been hers, her little arms wrapped tight around the doll's stiff body, like she was afraid someone might take it away. At first, the strange things were easy to dismiss. "Mama," Lila said one morning at breakfast, pushing rice around her plate while Maria sat propped against her glass. "Maria walked around again last night." Nena looked up from the stove. "Walked around? She likes the house at night. She says it feels different when everyone's asleep." Lila tilted her head toward the doll as if listening. "She says it feels more like hers." Nena set down her ladle and crossed to the table. She picked up the doll and examined it. The porcelain face, the glassy painted eyes, the seam of the lips sealed together in something that wasn't quite a smile, but wasn't quite not one either. "Dolls don't walk, Anak," she said, setting Maria back down. Lila looked at her with an expression too patient for an 8-year-old. "You just don't see her do it." Nena told herself it was imagination. Children had rich inner lives. There was nothing wrong with a little girl loving her doll. But that same week, the doll started appearing in different places. Lila would leave Maria in her room before dinner. By morning, the doll would be on the kitchen table, seated upright, facing the hallway. Once, Dante found it in the bathroom doorway at 2 in the morning, positioned directly in his path, and had to catch himself on the doorframe to keep from stumbling over it. "Lila?" He stood in his daughter's doorway, keeping his voice steady. "Why did you put Maria in the hallway?" Lila rolled over in bed, blinking at him with sleepy eyes. "I didn't, Papa. She goes there by herself." "Don't lie to me." "I'm not lying," she said simply, and rolled back over. They blamed her every time, scolded her, reasoned with her, told her to stop moving the doll around the house and pretending she hadn't. Lila never argued. She just looked at them with that quiet, patient expression and said she wasn't doing it. Then, one night, Nena woke at 3 in the morning to find the doll sitting at the foot of their bed. She screamed. She couldn't help it. The shape of it there in the dark, upright and still, the painted eyes catching a sliver of moonlight through the curtain. Dante bolted upright beside her, and they both sat staring at Maria for a long, cold moment. Neither of them had touched it. They were certain. They did not sleep again that night. After that, Lila stopped playing with the doll the way children play. She stopped dressing it, stopped carrying it around the yard, stopped including it in little pretend tea parties. Instead, she whispered to it. Long, late-night conversations in a voice so low it barely existed, a breath dressed up as words. Nena would press her ear close to her daughter's door and hear the rhythm of it. Lila talking, then a pause, then Lila responding to something, nodding, whispering again, as if she were receiving answers that no one else could hear. One night, Naina knocked and opened the door. Lila sat cross-legged on the floor with Maria in front of her. She looked up, unsurprised. "Who are you talking to?" Naina asked. "Maria?" Lila glanced at the doll, then back at her mother. "She gets lonely when everyone sleeps. She doesn't like being the only one awake." "Dolls don't get lonely. They aren't alive." Lila's expression shifted, just slightly, just enough. Something flickered behind her eyes that Naina did not recognize. Too old for her face, too knowing. "She hears everything you say about her," Lila said quietly. "She just wants you to know that." Naina picked up the doll and put it on the shelf. "Go to sleep." "She won't stay there," Lila said. She didn't. Then came the sounds. Soft footsteps crossing the wooden floor after midnight. Too light for an adult, too deliberate for the house settling. Naina and Dante would lie awake, listening to the measured creak, 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 moving slowly down the hallway, stopping outside their door, and then going silent. Inside the walls, a faint tapping began. Not random, rhythmic. 3 taps, a pause, 3 taps again. Like something asking to be let out. And sometimes, in the deepest part of the night, they heard a child giggling. It was the giggling that was the worst, because it didn't sound like Lila. It sounded like something that had listened to Lila laugh and was trying to recreate it from memory and had gotten it almost right, but not quite. A half second too long, a half step too high. The way a recording sounds when the tape has been played and rewound too many times, the voice wearing thin. "Dante." Naina clutched his arm in the dark. "That isn't her. She's right down the hall. I know where she is. That is not our daughter." Dante got up and checked on Lila. She was asleep, completely still, mouth slightly open, chest rising and falling. The doll was not in the room. He found it in the hallway, standing upright, not resting against the wall, not fallen sideways. Upright, on its own, as if it had been placed there with intention, as if it had walked there and stopped. The painted eyes pointed toward his bedroom door. He carried it back to Lila's room with his jaw tight and his hands very steady, and put it on the highest shelf and went back to bed and did not mention it to Naina until morning. By then, the doll was on the kitchen table again, seated, facing the door, waiting. One rainy night, the power went out across San Isidro. The Ramos house filled as with a heavy, pressing darkness, the kind that feels less like an absence of light and more like a presence of something else. Dante lit a single candle in the sala and moved through the house slowly, checking the windows, checking the locks. The rain hammered the tin roof. The hills outside were invisible. Lila was supposed to be in bed, but as Dante moved down the hallway toward his own room, he stopped. He heard 2 voices from behind his daughter's door. He stood completely still and listened. The first was Lila. He knew his daughter's voice like he knew his own heartbeat. The second was not a voice he could name. Thin and dry, like a sound produced by something that had studied voices but never owned one. It rose and fell with the shape of words, but the texture was wrong, hollow in the wrong places, the cadence just slightly off from human, like an old woman trying to remember what a child sounds like a recording of someone who was no longer there. "Lila," he said through the door, and his own voice came out lower than he intended. The second voice stopped. Only the rain and the dark and his daughter's breathing. He put his hand on the door, paused, opened it. Lila sat on the floor in the center of the room with the doll placed directly in front of her, the candle's reflection reaching through the doorway just far enough to catch the shine of porcelain. The light moved. The shadows moved with it, and for a moment the shadows on Maria's face moved a different direction than everything else, as if something beneath the surface was shifting. Lila turned slowly to look at him. She smiled. Not her usual smile, that wide, bright, eyes-crinkling thing he had known since she was born. This was slower, more deliberate, a smile that arrived piece by piece, as if it were being assembled by someone consulting a diagram. "Papa," she said softly, "Maria wants to meet you." He didn't move. The doll's head tilted, a single, slow degree to the left, smooth as something oiled. And then a sound moved through the room, low and intimate, like the crack that moves through ice just before the whole surface gives. It did not come from the shelf where something had fallen. It came from the doll itself, from the neck. "Lila." He kept his voice level. "Step away from the doll and come here." His daughter looked at him with that ancient patience again. "She just wants you to say hello, Papa. She says you've been ignoring her." "Come here, now." "She doesn't like being ignored." The painted lips of the doll split apart, not cracked, not broken, opened, moving with the wet, deliberate parting of something that had been waiting a long time for the chance. And the smile that spread across the porcelain face was too wide for the face it was on, far too wide, spreading past the cheeks, pulling the painted skin at the corners in a way that porcelain should not allow, until the expression on Maria's face was nothing human had ever worn. From deep inside the open mouth came a sound. It was the giggling from the hallway, right up close now, wet and near, pouring out of the hollow dark behind those painted lips. And behind the giggling, just barely beneath it, a voice. Old, dry, enormous somehow, the way a sound is enormous when it comes from something that has been silent for a very long time. It said one word. It said, "Hello." Dante grabbed his daughter by the arm and pulled her out of the room. They left the house that night. They told themselves they would go back, collect their things, sort it out in daylight. They told themselves many things, standing in Dante's mother's kitchen at midnight. Lila sitting quietly at the table with her hands folded in her lap, staring at nothing. Nena leaned close to Dante's ear. "She didn't ask about the doll," she whispered. "She hasn't mentioned it once." Dante looked at his daughter. Lila looked back at him. She smiled, slowly, piece by piece, starting from the corners of her mouth. "Maria says she's comfortable," Lila said. "She says she doesn't mind waiting." Outside, the rain had stopped, and somewhere across town, in a dark and empty house at the edge of San Isidro, a porcelain doll sat upright on the kitchen table, with a wide red smile and its painted eyes facing the door, waiting, like it had done before, like it knew how to do better than anything.